Well, hello, wild people. Well, Flash is away at her friend's house, and I thought I would surprise her with my new idea for raising money for our next long-distance hike. I'm just so excited. I've decided to sell all of her obsolete stuff since, everything I own is essential. So, gone on to Facebook, Marketplace, let's see, for sale. Family heirloom china dishes, serving for 12. They're a bit old. Let's put down $10. What could possibly go wrong? Anyway, today I'm going to offer you some tips for saving money to finance a long-distance hike. Well, thank you for tuning in to AK Wild One. A long-distance hike is not cheap. Just ask your feet. A thru hiker can go through 7 pairs of shoes during the course of 2,650 miles, and a good pair of trail runners will set you back $150 or so. So that's more than $1,000 just in shoes. An average thru hiker spends about $2,000 to $3,000 in gear for the trail, and then between $1,700 to $2,500 a month for a 5 to 6 month adventure. After you add your travel and a variety of unforeseen expenses, it's not unusual to spend close to $20,000 or more on a thru hike. Yikes! So let's see if we can come up with a few ways to add a little frugality to your hiker's strut. So tip number 1, consider buying food in bulk and using resupply boxes. So I found the best place to send a resupply box is to a small town that has a low selection of food, but also a post office or a store that will hold your boxes. Sometimes these stores will hold your boxes for a fee, so that's an added cost. The cost for a large flat rate USPS box is around $23. You can pack 5 days of food very comfortably in these flat rate boxes, and up to 7 days, perhaps more if you have the sardine gene. The downside of using too many resupply boxes is it can be hard to tell if you're actually saving money on costs when you factor in the $23 fixed cost of the box. Also, tastes could change, and your Cajun tuna packs, or in my case, dehydrated potatoes, might later become unbearable to eat. Also, remember, most post offices will only hold your packages for about a month. If your box is going to be at a location longer than a month, you should call the post office and ask them to hold on to it until you arrive. However, some places are sticklers, such as the post office in Etna, which sent our boxes home once they were in the post office for 2 weeks. It takes about 5 days max for a flat rate box to reach its destination, as long as it's sent from inside the United States. So make sure you'll be hiking through your resupply spot within a month of it arriving at the post office, or 2 weeks if you're planning to resupply in Etna. My advice is to send resupply boxes from larger towns that have fairly good prices to smaller towns that don't have the selection you need. I tend to use a mixture of resupply boxes and in-town purchases along the trail. So this year, during our hike through the areas we missed last year in 2022, basically all of Oregon and 150 miles of Northern California, we used resupply boxes exclusively because, well, we took along our dog Bern, and we wanted to minimize the amount of traveling to town for food. That had its advantages and disadvantages, which I'll explore in a future video. Tip number 2, backpacking food can be quite expensive. You can pay up to $3.50 a piece for energy bars on the trail. And by the time I hit Washington, I ate about 5 energy bars a day. So that's $17.50 a day. And if you just say, well, I hiked about 25 days a month, I could be spending $437.50 a month on energy bars. And if I was on the trail for 6 months, I would wind up spending $2,650. Wow. Now I'm moving forward with making my own energy bars for the trail. So please keep watching my channel, because in one of my future episodes, I'm going to show you how to make some delicious energy bars that will cut your costs by about 75%. Tip number 3, once you make your own energy bars, why not consider making your own dinners? On the trail, I ate a lot of peak meals and Mountain House dehydrated meals, and the 2-person meals vary from $13 to $15 a piece, even more in some of the trail towns. So if you spent $14 a day for 25 days of hiking a month, that would equal $350, or $2,100 for 6 months. In a future episode, I'm going to show you how to make your own delicious dehydrated meals that can cut that cost by at least 70%. Tip number 4. If you love traveling solo, I get it. However, one frugal tip is to travel with a buddy who will share the costs and save you money on such things as rides to and from the trail, motel rooms, and campsite fees. Tip number 5. Booking rooms for that much beloved zero is definitely a thing on the trail. If you have to spend a night in a motel room, try booking a room during the week when rates are cheaper. Weekend rates can be substantially higher. Another side tip is, when you make the call to a motel, the first question to ask is, what is the earliest time I can check in? That way you can increase the amount of quality R&R time. It's a bit of an art form getting off the trail and making a hitch to a town and arriving just in time for check-in. So I'm not mentioning hostels because I don't have much experience with them. I'm a little older, and so I like my comforts. I also found some good deals on Airbnb, and a lot of places on Airbnb will offer rooms for 4 or more people. So you can save money if you choose that option. Tip number 6, seek out affordable campgrounds. Some are very nice. Really, if you need a zero, and if you have shade, a shower, a place to do laundry, it isn't too big of a leap to a motel room. Some campgrounds are very nice and almost as relaxing as a motel room. For example, places like Warner Springs in California, Shelter Cove in Oregon, or Trout Lake in Washington have no cost or cheap camping with access to everything you need. Tip number 7, buy your gear carefully. Shop the sales. February is a good month for clearance sales, and there tend to be a lot of discounts in May. May is also good for mega sales, and Labor Day is also a good time. You can also shop thrift stores in January in well-to-do recreation towns because some people want to depart with gear and clothing they received as presents. Gear choice is an emotional issue for many thru hikers. Some will argue they save money by buying slightly used gear, while others say you can save money by purchasing quality gear with great customer service and guarantees. So when you make your purchases for a long-distance hike, you definitely want gear that can go the distance, that will survive the rigors of the trail. However, for a few items, it should be okay to buy used. For example, buying a used bear canister that is still functional is probably an okay idea. Bear canisters don't usually wear out unless a bear has abused it. Also, if you're not getting 450 to 500 miles out of your shoes, consider another option. And also, don't buy all of your shoes ahead of time. Chances are your feet will swell, and then you'll have shoes that don't fit. I started out with size 13 shoes, and by the time I hit Washington, I was wearing size 15. Basically Sasquatch feet. Tip number 8. Think strategically when purchasing your airplane ticket. Generally, you should start monitoring plane flight prices 4 months before your trip and make your purchase within 1 to 2 months of your travel date. Generally, airplane ticket prices increase 3 to 4 weeks before takeoff. There does seem to be some truth to the idea that traveling on a Wednesday can save you money. If you're a little bit techie, you can use Hopper Flight Watch Tool app to start tracking the price of your route, and it will notify you when the prices are at their lowest. Tip number 9. One way to save money at home is if you're going to park your car and no one is going to drive it, consider keeping only the comprehensive coverage and dropping collision car insurance, unless you expect someone to hit your parked car. I did this for my 2 vehicles that were parked in the garage, and I saved several $100s. However, check your local state regulations to make sure you can get by with just comprehensive coverage. Tip number 10. Going into town can be expensive if you're going to whoop it up. And if you carry credit cards, purchases can be pretty easy. It might be a good idea to draw money from an ATM and carry cash before you head out to town to enjoy yourself. Research shows that you spend 20% more when you pay with credit cards versus cash. The idea is when you're flipping Andrew Jackson's and Ulysses Grant's down on the counter, you feel the pain immediately, but when you use a credit card, that pain is delayed, so you're more likely to spend more. So maybe you could set a limit on what you'll spend on 0 days as far as entertainment goes and pay for that in cash. But remember, carrying cash does have its risks. Well, you'll notice I didn't talk about other financing options such as sponsorships, GoFundMe, cashing in your kids' college funds, etc. I'll leave that to others. So living frugally on the trail can be a good thing, but please don't skip on compensation to trail angels or kind souls who give you rides to town. Sometimes the line between a trail angel and a trail entrepreneur gets blurred. Here, communicating expectations is key. If you arrange a ride ahead of time with someone, ask what they charge. If you get a hitch with someone, I think it's a good idea to say before leaving, "Can I give you some cash for gas?" Well, wild people, please feel free to share some tips on how you save money on a long-distance hike, and maybe how you financed your hike. I'm anxious to hear your ideas. Also, remember, before you start selling your significant other's stuff, you might want to talk to them about it first. Oh well, live and learn. And so, until we meet again, live wildly, my friends.